All right, let's get started with this August 23rd budget meeting. It's 1 PM. Do we have to list who's here? No. Okay. Okay, Mike, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thanks, Dave. So, has everyone read the 3 pages of questions, 4 pages of questions that we've already received and responded to? Are there any questions on any of the questions or the responses? Right, because y'all got an email yesterday on Tom Swenson had sent out some questions. Aaron had already sent some previously. So some of the questions Aaron had asked, we've already talked about. They've been incorporated into the budget model. Tom had a lot of good questions, mostly clarification type things. The short story with Tom's questions were, we need money for roads. The takeaways from his questions is, how are we going to fund roads? And he likes utilizing the same levy as last year, but if we have areas that we can move over from other places to help reduce the impact of what we do for roads, let's go ahead and do that. So no questions on Tom's questions and responses?
Is Public Works going to give us their recommendation for roads?
Yes,
I mean,
they are.
That's a
They're
pretty
working
big-
on it. Yep.
How long is that going to be before they can give us a recommendation?
We don't know. They have some preliminary numbers. I know Phil is working on some revised items, but for purposes of today, we don't need to know a specific road. We need to know amounts and how much we're comfortable with and try to figure out how to
But-
pay for that.
Yeah, but didn't Phil give a rating and what it would cost for overlays, for chip seal, for
Yes, he did
reconstruction?
that, and he provided that to Public
So if we knew
Works.
what roads that they were
They don't-
recommending, we could plug in that number.
Right, they don't have that recommendation finalized as of today. It's about $1 million is what the number is, okay?
So extending that, Mike, is it gonna be $1 million a year, or is that on a budget?
Well, that's really up to the council, and so let's talk about that for just a second. And I've had a lot of questions on how do we pay for roads. So I think we'd all agree that we're behind in roads, right? Yeah. Okay, so with that as a backdrop, I'm just going to put this up on the overhead, TJ. So big picture, when we do a road project, there's a couple different ways we can do it. We can just pay for it ourselves and not worry about it. We can put a placeholder in the budget to say, okay, we're going to have build into our budget every year a number, whatever that is, and we're going to do a road, whatever that project is. We'll pay for it, we'll be done, and we don't think about it again. The other way we can do it is residents can come in and say, my road's in really rough shape. We're going to petition the city, and we'll be happy to pay for our fair share of it. And we issue bonds and we pay for it, finance it ourselves, do the roads. The other way to do it is we issue an assessment bond. We assess the residents, we have a public hearing, that's under 429, I think. And then we assess the minimum amount, finance it at about 1 to 2% above the current prime rate, which right now is really high if you looked at mortgage rates. We do the project, we assess it, and we start collecting it, start collecting assessments on it. And some people are okay with that, some people are not. The other way to do a road is to say, the council feels so strongly about fixing this particular road, they say we're going to do this road. We have what's called a supermajority, so we have a 4/5 vote of the council. So 4 of you say we're going to do this road, and we're going to assess it. Then when it comes time to assess the road, you just need a majority to certify the assessment roll. That's actually what we did last year on for the 2022 road projects, Rushmore and those. That's what we did. We got an appraisal of benefit, and they said, here's what we think your assessment should be. We had 12 people, I think, on that project that reserved their right to appeal, and we haven't received any appeals on that. So that's a case where the council said, we're going to do this road. We're not going to go through the process to see if you want to be assessed or not. We're just going to do it. Another way to do a road is under Chapter 475, which is a little different. Normally when you do a road, you know, there's property owner participation in it. This is a way to do the road where you recognize we want to do this road and we don't care what you think, is basically what we're saying. So what we do is we come up with a road plan. It's called a 5-year road plan, and we actually did this. In 2018 was the last year we did this. We used that road plan that was developed prior to that, and we paved the road and issued bonds for it and didn't assess it, and everyone paid for it. I think it was Manhattan, correct, Shar? It was Manhattan. We did that. That gets everyone's attention. Hey, why did you do my road and not everybody else's? This was a case where we had a 5-year road plan. We identified the roads within the plan. We updated the costs. And at that time, the council said, we'd like to do this road. It was part of a road improvement plan. We held a hearing on the plan. And when you do a road improvement plan, it has to be at least 5 years. And so the council certifies the plan. They issue their intent to issue bonds to fund this plan. And then there's a waiting period where the public can say, I don't like your plan, why don't you do my road? We're going to do a reverse, kind of a reverse referendum, if you will, on it. Typically with a referendum, which is the next way to do road, you can say, I want to do this road, and we're going to have a referendum. The referendum, yes or no, and there's a period where they can reverse that if they want to. And then when you're done, you just go do your road. The public, the voting public. So if you're a property owner, they file a petition and they say, we've got enough votes to say, we don't like what you're doing, we want it reversed. It's a long, lengthy process. The easiest way to do a road is to map out your roads, come up with a plan, and implement it and go forward and stick with it.
Are you in the process of, revamping the original list that was made in 2018?
Yes, it was actually done before that. We've worked with, and that was part of what Marcia touched on earlier, to try to figure out which roads were in what condition. And do we want to take an approach, we're going to do this area, or we're going to do a road over here and one down here, or what do we exactly want to do? So a lot of our time at Public Works has been spent on, having that debate. And that's all good, but the longer you wait, roads don't get better over time, they get worse. If nothing's done to them, and it gets more costly to repair them. So in this budget, because we're not finalized with what road we're going to do with what item the Public Works Commission is recommending, to give it visibility, the easiest thing to do is say, we need to be doing about $1 million of roads, just to not get as far behind as we are now. So whether that's chip sealing them, if you're going to chip seal them, we typically don't assess for that. Under Chapter 475, what this explains is it really refers to bituminous overlays and full depth reclamations or rebuilds, reconstructions.
Doesn't it depend on the condition of the road, whether you chip seal or, how you go about repairing it?
It does, and there's different views on that. Some will say a road rated at a 6 can do a chip seal. Some might say, well, because it's this kind of road and it's a connector, it really needs to have not a chip seal. The answer is it depends. Some are in better shape than others.
So they never actually, I left the Public Works meeting because it was getting to be too long, but they never really got down to the rating of the roads and what they wanted to do, because there's some that they're just going to let go.
Yeah, they did get down to the road rating.
Did they?
And then, Pat, maybe you can touch on that. You and Phil went back out and looked at some of them. And
Yeah,
then
you redid
yeah.
a couple of them, raised them back up so we can seal them in that, but bottom line is what we need to do is, like Mike said, we gotta figure out a number of how much you guys wanna spend. and then we'll fill in the slot with what we, give us a figure we're starting with, and then we can go from there to figure out what roads we can attack first and second.
Yeah, and I think what we're asking is the rating, we want to know what roads you want to do, and then we decide how many of those roads you're going to do, and what we want to bond for.
It's a toss-up either way, but it'd
But-
be nice if you gave us this, for this meeting,
Well-
give us kind of a round figure of what you're thinking about spending, and then we can come back the next meeting and we'll have the roads we're thinking about.
Obviously, you're gonna do the ones that are in the worst shape first.
Yes, that's the game plan, is to catch the worst ones and then go up. But it'd be nice if you just gave us kind of a round figure of what you're thinking, and then we can fill in the slots and show you what roads we're gonna do, and then go from there.
My understanding was the worst ones that are past chip sealing and stuff, we're just going to let go, we're not going to reconstruct them, we're going to move on with the chip sealing and the overlays.
Well, again, there's a lot of
But
views on
maybe
that.
I left too early, I suppose, I don't know.
Yep, flip-flop, and then Tom had some ideas too of what roads we can.
Can
do
we
this.
see that rating? The
Yeah, we
maps?
can provide- we can get that
Okay,
for you.
that'd be great.
Maybe we should have a joint meeting and put a meeting on the road so we can all understand it.
Well, I guess,
Yeah.
Or
We don't have it
attend
now,
the
so,
public works
yeah.
meeting when they're gonna dig into it.
okay.
Is there no doubt that there's at least $1 million worth of repair that needs to be done right away?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Like
Yes.
every year, so, okay.
Probably
Yes, there's-
millions, but.
Yes, we identified quite a bit of that, and that's where a lot of the debate was on, if there's a road that needs to be reconstructed, where does it go? Does it go to a cul-de-sac and serves 8 homes, or does it go, or is it a West Shore Drive type of road that is a major artery through the city? So it all was, where do you want to spend your money and what impact do you want to have? That's the first part of it. The second part of it is, we're kind of late in the game to be coming up with the 5-year plan, trying to fund it. How we talked about earlier, it can still be done, but the decision needs to be made. How much do you want to spend and where do you want to spend it? So that's what Phil and Patrick are looking at, trying to make that work and do what makes sense. So to answer your question, Marcia, we don't have a final recommendation or road rating to share with you.
Okay.
As Patrick said, we will after the Public Works meeting meets again. But for purposes of today, our discussion is, I want to try to keep it high level and not, I want a chip seal versus full depth reclamation, Cross Lake Avenue or whatever the road is. We just need to know that, what are we comfortable in trying to fund? And so with that said, let's talk about real briefly where our money comes from. I think we all know when we look at a levy, and this is page 4 of your budget packet, if you're following along. And we'll start on the far right-hand side where it says sewer operating fund. One of the interesting things is, in our sewer fund, the number on the far right is the debt service. We really can't do anything with that fund. That's static. That has to stay what it is because we're required by statute to levy a certain amount to pay the bonds that were used to construct the system and related improvements. So we can basically cross that one off our budget discussion. If we look at the middle of the column where it says TIF 405, that's a tax increment financing district, which is the assisted living. We don't really need to do anything with that because all that's based on is if they pay their taxes, we refund a portion of what they pay so they can pay the debt that they use to improve that district. If we look at debt service in the middle here on 301, we can cross that off too. That's statutory. The levy for that is set by statute in the bonds that we've already issued. So we've already crossed off half of our fund groups that we need to talk about. If we look at the EDA, that stays pretty much the same each year. Now they have timing issues with projects. Sometimes they get them done, sometimes they run into the next year. That's been fairly static the last several years. So they talk about things like housing, updating their website, things like that, and help us with a whole bunch of other things. So if you want to spend a lot of time on the EDA, there's not a lot to gain as far as budgeting goes with that, because there's really not a lot there, not a lot of activity.
Mike, wasn't it 3 years ago, though, we used to budget like $8,000 for EDA and then it jumped?
And then we had a couple of years where we had no budget for it, and we were concerned we were trying to spend down their fund balance. And they do things like, right now, they're working on updating our portions of our comprehensive plan and looking at housing is what they're doing right now. So if you don't want them to have a levy, then we can change that too.
So how much have they spent from last year's 18,000 budget that we gave them? My question is, are they really spending 18,000 bucks a year?
Yeah, they haven't spent a whole lot this year, and the reason for that is because we haven't received the billing from Bladec yet. Bladec is about a half to 2/3 of their budget, the activities with them. So of the 18,000, they spend about 2/3 of that with the support for Bladec. So they really don't spend a lot of money, is the point.
Well, that's my point too, is do we have to keep putting 18 in the pile each year?
I think we should, so that they can complete the projects they've started. But if you want to take that out, we
Well-
can have that discussion.
If they're using it and if it's
Yeah.
constructive.
Are they paying for the comprehensive plan? They're doing it themselves, aren't they?
They're doing both.
Yeah, I don't think
Both.
they're.
And we won't see those bills until September, October time, I would guess.
Right now, Dave Garn is working on the housing, yeah.
But we're not spending.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all.
Yeah. But no, that's a good question. So that leaves us the general fund. And when we look at the general fund, there's two numbers that really stand out. One is the tax levy, and the other one is how we pay for capital projects. So we've pretty much accounted for the lion's share of our revenues in the general fund between two numbers. One is the tax levy to support operations, and the other one is if we're bonding for projects. On the expenditure side down below, operations, if you go back, even going back to about 2011, 2012, operations really haven't changed a whole lot. There's been inflationary changes when head count has changed or whatever. Most of your expense there is what it takes to pay for staff and services, police, fire, admin, planning and zoning, and all the insurances, workers' comp, liability, things like that. The bigger expenditures are right here in capital outlay. So the place where you can make the most impact in the budget is what do you spend for capital. That's the biggest number that has the most bang for it. And that's where the roads come in. And so if you look down towards the bottom here, we all know this big number, $750,000. That's the county's best estimate as of today at what the city's share of the pedestrian intersection improvements are expected to be. That includes the cost share that the city will have to reimburse the county for. That includes the engineering and whatever aesthetics the council agrees to that the county will not pay for. That's about $750,000. Those are dollars that we have to come up with. We agreed to that at least 2 years ago for that project. And the nice thing is that project is completely within the county's right-of-way. And so what we did is we took the grant that the city obtained for sidewalk improvements to try to extend sidewalks across the road from the trail, because most of the winter, people are walking in the street. We're trying to avoid that, because the other side of the road is a grant and aid trail, and so is the one going towards Reed's. So we're trying to get people off the streets on the sidewalks. And the timing was such that when we did the Federal Lands Access Program grant with the county, we pledged our dollars to the county and combined the grants. So that's all stuff that we've already done. But this number probably won't change a whole lot. Probably go down a little bit, but I don't expect it to be higher than that unless something unforeseen comes up from the county engineer and our engineer. This
So-
$45,000 here is, TJ's planning to spend down his assigned fund balances to purchase equipment. And those were numbers that in prior years, the city had budgeted, knowing that at some point they would need to replace things in the community center, whatever that equipment is. But as TJ shared with you last meeting, the numbers, you're seeing quite a few people going through there. It's not a couple hundred people in the month, it's more like closer to 10,000, right? You get like a little over 9,000 visitors. Chip is gone. Oh, he's right there. Do you want to talk about, you're so quiet. You're tired from the
So-
wedding. Can you talk about the public safety aid?
That's in 2023, the 107,000 that we're going to get in December.
Yeah, we won't get it.
We don't have that budgeted for, but we do have things that,
Well, we didn't know we were
purchasing.
going to get it when we did the budget, because remember, that came out of the legislative session.
well, they've already said that we were getting 107,930,
Right,
whatever it
but
is.
for 2023, we didn't know that.
Yeah, that's in 2023. That's not in 2024. That's 2023. We're getting that this December. So we have to take that into consideration too when you're looking at that capital
And
budget.
we are, and we're using, and if you look at the two big numbers here, 5.4 versus 6.3, we have a deficit. We're trying to find ways to fill that hole up. How are we going to pay for it? The 107,910 is one that goes,
The 107,910 has to be used for public safety, either
Correct.
fire or EMS.
Yeah,
Yep.
just public safety, but they don't say, you don't have to spend it in a certain amount of time like the,
no.
I'm trying to think, the COVID funds, for
No,
lack
those
of better.
were different. Those were federal
I know they are
funds.
different.
Yep.
I'm just saying, they're not going to have the same requirements on the 107,910 as what we did for the other funds.
Or the COVID funds.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the point is, those are dollars that are not available for the budget year we're in right now. So we're using them to fund 2024.
They're coming in December. You're getting a check in December
We
for the
hope, yeah.
107.
Yep.
So we don't include it in the 2024 budget.
I disagree.
That's correct. So if you wanted to buy some of the stuff for capital out of the 107 for the fire and police, you
Right
could do
now.
that, and then you can take it out of the 2024 budget.
Yep, you could pull it forward. You could do it two ways. You could use it to finance expenditures after January 1st, or you could pull in budgeted items, take them out of the budget and try to get them yet this year. But the point is, if you're trying to get a truck, for example, in December, chances are you won't get it in December, and you'll get most of the funds in December, and most of your year is already over, so.
Well, I'm thinking, the radios. I think that was talked at the public safety meeting. The radios are a big thing. They're not going to be compliant or whatever.
Yeah, Jake already got radios. I'm looking for the radios now, correct?
Oh,
Yeah, I have to update my mobile radios in my
okay.
trucks.
But your tasers and your vests and that kind of stuff, that could come out of this.
And that's the good discussion I want to have, is because we have things that we can apply to that. We haven't identified specific items that we would apply to that. And that's why we're having this discussion.
I
But the
think
point is,
we'll
we
take
have
it out
these
of the-
needs. We have these needs for these items on a 100,000 foot level to say, here's how we're going to finance this, then we decide we agree to get those items, and now we look at how to purchase them. The other thing that's interesting in here is we got the road, Small Cities Assistance Grant for roads was funded. We found that
They don't have a
out.
dollar amount on that yet, though.
Yeah, it's on page 4, that's up on right in front of you. It's $99,409, and we'll get that in, I think, 2 separate tranches in mid and late 2024. And that can be used for roads. We've got 2 years to spend it, I believe. So we can
That's
use
going
that
to be
for
a
roads.
permanent funding now.
Until the legislature changes it again.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I guess.
I mean, it was permanent the first time. The law is permanent. The discussion point was whether or not they wanted to fund it.
Well, I
Yep.
was told the funding was permanent, but that's okay. Until the law changes. You're right.
Yep, because they did that the first time. They said, here's the law, we're going to fund it. Then a new legislature came in and said they didn't change the law, they just decided not to fund it. So you're right. That's,
So
but the
is
most
that,
we'll get is about $100,000 a year.
what about the transportation, the sidewalk, what we got for 2025 or whatever? Is that included in any of this streetscaping and stuff?
No.
So
Remember
we're-
we talked earlier? We assigned our dollars to the county and
Yeah.
combined them with the bigger grant. So the county will be billing us back our share of it.
So is that going to be used in the next year's, the streetscape thing?
Is that 750?
No. This is in addition to that. This
Okay.
would have been our share in addition to the grant
To
funds.
the grant?
Yep,
Okay, but they are using that in the
Well, yeah.
project next year?
yes. We combined it, they got about 900,000, we had about 610, and they combined those for, to have one larger project.
It looks to me like if we throw $1 million at roads, here's 750,000 of it right now.
But that's for,
Well, this $1 million for roads has nothing to do with our road plan, not one single thing. The $750,000 right here is the city's share of the sidewalk
I
pedestrian
realize that.
improvements.
We have to come up with 750,000. We're talking about throwing $1 million at the road project next year or in every year after or whatever. Then we've already used 750,000 of that million we're going to throw at it.
Yep. And that's the question. You can say, do you want our roads, do you want to pay cash for $1 million? And 750 goes to the intersection improvement. I kept them separate. I kept that separate because we knew what that number was going to be. It was going to be at least $500,000. We've been talking about it since 2000, I don't know, for 3 years now. So we knew when we applied for the grant, we'd be at least $500,000. We got updated numbers. We have to pay for engineering and whatever improvements in there. That's different than what the city should be doing for roads. Okay?
But so Mike, so the question is it $1 million every year? We don't know the answer to that, but if we could look out 5 years or 10 years, we're gonna do bonds for them, we're gonna pay them off over in 5 years or something, but we're gonna keep building those bonds up each year, right?
Right.
You understand that?
Yep, I
So
do.
could we kind of come up with, we need $300,000 every year to put towards roads, and that will carry through? Or will that not touch it?
Well, now remember, back in 2018, we did present a plan that did exactly that, and we extended it out for the life of each road. And then we, as a council, the organization said, I'm not comfortable with that, and we ignored it. And so the roads, and we did a combination of levy, a combination of debt, and in some years, we decided we would not do any roads. In some years, we'd do a larger project and bond for a portion of it. If we did a smaller project, we'd self-fund it through that capital improvement program. And we had David Drown come in here, and we sat down and we laid out a plan that after about 12 years, it'd be self-healing, but we never stuck to it. We said, that's great, thanks for your time, I'm not comfortable with it, and we changed our plan and we didn't follow it. So that's what we were talking about earlier, and the funding mechanism for that we were proposing was under chapter 475, where under subdivision 3B, We have a street construction plan, and we follow it. But we didn't do that, okay?
Well, can we do assessments for some of the?
You can. And that's what the whole debate was at that time, back in 2018, and Dave, you were there, remembering
Yeah, no,
that.
and I still feel
And-
the same way as I did
And we had
then.
all this debate over how do we assess or
Get
not
the most
assess?
life out of a road. What was put to us was put it on a schedule.
Yep,
Big Pine Trail was a good example of it. That's way overdue. That's a 30-year-old road. And it's falling apart. But the people who live on Big Pine Trail don't want to pay, they don't want to pay for it, and they think they're happy with it. So my
Yeah.
thought is, let them be happy with it, leave it alone, don't pay it, kick it, get it down.
yeah.
And so I think a primary road like West Shore Drive, we gotta look at carefully, but I think these dead-end roads and these little roads, let the people petition for them. They gotta do it a year beforehand, and then we could budget for them.
Yeah, and then we
But Dave-
came up with the road rating, and that's, we did the first pass on it, and Tom and Pat spent some time with Phil going through it.
But so
and now they
now
kicked
we're
it
still
back.
trying to
Yep.
come up with a plan of how to
Correct.
do the roads, and I think we should stick with the primary roads, the West Shore Drives, the Harbor Lanes, and leave these secondary ones go until whoever wants to go through or they petition.
I got something to say about that. I got two questions here. First one I'm going to ask is to you, Mike. The $750,000 figure up, well, it's not
Yep.
up there now, but that includes the beautification part of coming to the north from 3 and 66, am I correct?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
And when I asked
That-
Phil
that-
about.
That answers my question. Dave, we ran a detour through Old Log Landing, and we tore the dickens out of the roads back there. Why are you sitting back and say that Old Log Landing doesn't count? And why would they pay for damage that we as a city did?
No, you said Old Pine,
I've said Big Pine Trail.
Big Pine Trail.
Yeah, I'm talking about back in Old Log Landing.
I never even mentioned that, but.
Well, no, but but that's correct, you didn't. The thing of it is, you're talking about doing West Shore Drive. How long ago was West Shore Drive last
West Shore
done?
Drive is an example as a
Yeah.
thoroughfare road that feeds other areas of it.
But we damaged with our detour these roads back here. Why aren't we addressing them ourselves as a city?
We could. I mean, I would argue with you that there's not as much damage done to that road as what is portrayed.
Well, then,
But that's a separate.
but then why do we have Phil establish that and Pat? And then we come back and see what it is we need to do.
But maybe
And
that
I-
is one of them that we need to do, and we've
Yep,
talked
and that's
about
what they're
that
doing.
all going,
Okay.
all throughout.
I,
People that were at the meeting the other day, the Public Works Committee, came back, and they came back very disgusted. Okay.
I can provide you a copy of what Tom proposed
Yeah,
and the roads he proposed.
I,
Some of them were in Old Log Landing. Yes. And the costs he figured out, I can give you all a copy of that.
please,
Okay.
thank you. Because
Okay.
I haven't seen it, so I didn't know.
yeah, and what Tom's intent on that was to let's take a high-level look at the roads and come up with a number. So we did that. And then the second part of that was, that's a bigger number than we want to bite off. So is there something we could do to make sure these are rated properly, and can we consider doing something other than a full depth reclamation or a overlay and the associated costs? And we got, $3 million worth of roads down to like $1 million or something like that. I mean, it was significantly less. And so we had that discussion at the last meeting. Phil went back out with Pat and said, okay, let's take another look at this and see if that makes sense. So that's where it's at today. Okay?
okay, I have a question.
Okay.
So we're looking at, if we throw $1 million at road construction, we're looking at bonding for $1,750,000. The $750,000 we have to come up with.
Well, the 750 is assumed to be using existing cash reserves.
We're assuming that? Are we
That's
assuming
what
that?
we did when we applied for the grant. Because you're not going to assess that 750 against anybody.
Right.
Oh.
You're just gonna pay for it.
Yeah. If you don't want to do that, then we need to talk about
So
that.
that would come out of the general fund, not the reserve, not the
Correct.
phone company money?
Correct.
It would come out of the general.
Yep, and we have the ability to do that. And that was a decision the council made when we applied for it for,
Okay,
Yeah,
Both
we
times.
agreed to do it.
yeah.
I-
So now if you don't want to, if you want to bond for your share of it, then we've kind of muddied the waters, if you will. I mean, either way, we have to pay it. At this point, there may be a way to try to apply the federal dollars to a local share for an assessment, but the numbers are just too big. I mean, it's a $4.5 million project. And our share of it, our out-of-pocket is somewhere less than 750,
So
between
where-
500 and 750.
Where is it in here, the 750? Besides on the summary page, I see it on the summary page.
It's
But if you look
included
at
in the
road
line that
construction,
says
it's not in there. Oh, there it is.
$2,790,760.
Sorry.
Yep, and it's back there,
I was up here by the crack ceiling and the
Okay.
chip ceiling.
yeah. So we're not going to answer that question today.
But I'm guessing the chip ceiling, I heard a number of 500,000, is that in, you haven't included any of those funds in here
What I
yet.
included was, we're going to do a nice, easy number everyone can get their head around is $1 million for roads, whether it's chip sealing, crack filling, whatever it is. And so the whole gist of Tom's questions were, he's recognizing, he's in agreement with saying, you know what, we've got some challenges. Let's try to find a way, if we can squeeze some money out of one area, slide it over to another area, and see where that shakes out for roads. But the problem is, we still have to pay for the rest of it. And if you're not going to assess it,
But
then
we
it's
don't
harder to
assess-
issue bonds.
We don't assess chip sealing, so there's another 500,000
That's correct.
out of reserves.
And so if you remember.
That's why you
back in-
need to know what you're doing.
There's no disagreement there. And that's why I'm bringing up the issue. You know, when we did this back in, we started the plan back in 2014, 2017, tried to formalize it. We got it formalized. And 2018 was the last year we issued bonds against our road improvement plan where we didn't assess. But what happened in the meantime is we were doing exactly what you said, Dave. We were trying to build a plan, trying to raise funds to do that consistently. But the problem was, we didn't spend them. And so we generated enough funds to pay for Anchor Point. It was about $700,000. So we had money, so we just paid for it. And then we said, well, we need to do Manhattan. And now we spent our money, we didn't levy for it because we decided not to. And we had all this debate back in the 2019 timeframe about, should we assess, should we not assess? I like it, I don't like it. It makes sense, it doesn't make sense. I don't like the amount makes sense. And then we were going back to, how do we want to pay for roads? And so we're spending a lot of time here today trying to figure that out.
What I can't get my hands around is we keep bonding. To me, bonding is taking a loan out from my boat, and it's a 10-year loan. I would love to see a schedule that when we get this building paid off, that payment we can apply towards a bigger project.
And we've provided that to you already, I can do that again. Yep.
And it's my mind, it's my error, I don't understand that stuff. But
Yeah,
so if we bond it, if we do $1 million this year, we're not gonna put it on the taxes this year, we're gonna pay it off over time, I would assume.
yep,
And so we're gonna do $1 million next year, we're gonna keep compounding these payments or bonds each year.
right. Just to get your head around a number, what do you think our bonding capacity is for Cross
Well,
Lake?
you know, that doesn't really matter to me because, I mean, we can get a lot of money, but we have to pay it back ultimately.
That's correct.
And we keep doing it each year, and so it just keeps,
You
What-
said we're paying more back every year, is what you're
Yep.
saying.
I mean, you know, so let's put 300 grand towards the roads next year, and that's gonna pay off that bond, and it'll pay it off in 3 or 4 years. But the next year, we're gonna have another bond.
Well, that's not our choice. When we issue a bond, we issue it under the bonding statutes and guarantee what those rates are. And we no longer have the choice on how we're levying for it. That's statutory. So just to give you an example, we had a bond that paid off, and right down here on the bottom, that's the biggest change. If our levy stays the same, we had $221,334 less of debt service levy.
From Public Works?
Yes.
Yeah. But so can we agree to spend 300 grand a year on roads and you figure out how to finance it? I mean, is that a budget number does that make sense?
That's too small.
I,
not enough.
I,
So how much are we paying now? I mean, maybe we should talk about that number, try to come up.
How much are we paying for what?
For to repair roads right now.
Well, and for the last 5 years, I mean, how much have we accumulated that we're still paying?
Dave, are you saying pay 300,000 towards a bond payment?
Yeah, something, I mean, just come up with a budget each year. And
So
maybe
do
we're
a
already
do $1
doing-
million worth of work, but pay $300,000 towards it.
A year.
Or
a
maybe
year.
it's 500.
Yeah.
I don't know what that number is, but come up with that number that will pay
Well-
for it. And then it's paid off in X years, and then we do another chunk or something. Just-
Well-
That's gonna hold the taxes kind of flat, isn't it? If we can come up with a budget that will, we can do every year?
At some point, we're going to get caught really short. We're going to have a street that's going to be damaged to a point we're forced to, and that would throw that out of whack really quick.
Well, you don't want to do a bond issue every year. Bond issues cost money.
I agree with that.
But that's why I think it's imperative that we find out exactly what you want to do, chip sealing, because then we can't bond if you're going to chip seal, because we don't assess for it. So that's out. So we really kind of need to know where you're going. Are you going with reconstruction, overlay, chip sealing?
We were
What?
looking at a lot of chip sealing is what we were looking at. We lowered the number, we went from 5s to 6s to
Yep.
try and chip seal more roads to try and save some money.
And that's maintenance.
That made a huge difference on it. But like I said, if we could give us kind of a number that you're thinking about, and then we can,
But you'll come back with all chip sealing, and then we can't bond for that. It's maintenance. You see where I'm going? Kind of need to know where you're going.
Go ahead, Char.
That was the suggestion by Tom, was to do all seal coating.
Yep.
That doesn't make it right.
I'm just telling
sorry.
you, that's what they were thinking.
That's the direction they're going. and
That's what they were
that's-
talking.
So we have to come
Because
up
they
with
could
that
get
cash.
More roads done that way.
Yep.
I know,
Because
but-
it's a third cheaper than overlay.
What I-
Did they put a number on that? Did they say $340,000?
No, it was closer to $1 million.
It was $1 million bucks, okay.
But we have to come up with cash then.
We
Because
have
we
the
don't
cash today.
assess.
If you want to
That's
spend
where
it,
I'm
we can do
going
that.
with this.
If you don't want to spend it, then don't. That's why we're having this discussion. From a cash perspective, we're doing just fine. And that's why we get a good bond rating. The chip ceiling's about $1 million. Yeah. So if you look at the roads, if you've got $800,000, you can add a percentage for engineering and project management. And so you're gonna be at $1 million. If you're gonna do $850,000 of roads, you could call it $1 million to cover the engineering and project management.
Close to 6 million.
Mike, how much cash do we have on hand?
About $11 million.
Cash.
Most of it, a lot of it's in
Cash
debt service.
investments.
About 600,000 is set aside for a fire truck that's coming later this fall. 2.4 million the council set aside for phone company. Because if you look at my last comment from Aaron, the last comment says, don't balance your budget that way, because once it's gone, and you're just delaying.
Right.
Just call it what it is, get a program together and make it work. So, have we had enough discussion on roads yet today? We've identified the issues. Pat's gonna come back with the roads that
Sounds good.
we're suggesting? Okay.
I just think we need to have a consistent approach.
And you were excited about this meeting?
I was being sarcastic.
Yeah. No, and and we did that, we just didn't follow it.
We're trying to pull ourselves out of the hole.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about this. So let's just get back on track here. So I didn't update this because it was already published. Again, we're scheduled to have another meeting a week from today at 9 a.m. but we don't have to have a perfect budget by then. What our goal is to be comfortable enough with the levy that says, yeah, we think we can make it work for this number, but we don't have all the details, okay? And the way I built this was two ways. One was, what does our levy look like? On the back side here. Over time, Dave, I think you asked this question, what's happening with our tax rate? And this was one of the first questions Tom asked, is what do we look like? And so what I've done is these, all the numbers highlighted in yellow or a little darker, those are real numbers and those will not change. Those are for periods that have already occurred. And it starts out with, down on the bottom here, in the middle, this is our market value. As you can see in 2016, we're at 1.152 billion. Today, our most recent estimate is 2,403,820,700. Last year was 2.081 billion. That's a lot of market value. That's about 13% of the entire county. And we have none of the population, resident population. It's all transient. So when your market value goes up and your levy stays the same, your tax rate goes down, right? Everybody gets that. The problem that creates is if everyone's property has the same value adjustment each year, that's fine. But if one person's property, let's say if Aaron's property goes up $1 million and Jackson's goes up $10, Jackson will probably see a decrease in tax and Aaron will see a huge increase. But you're levying the same dollars overall. And what we'll see is I expect to see that shift again this year, just not as bad as it was last year. Last year, overall, the total pie in Cross Lake, the value increased 38% from the prior year. So this year, it's about 15.5%. Now, does that mean your taxes go up 15.5%? They might even go down in some cases. Some cases they'll go up. Some properties will go up substantially more than that. Some will stay relatively the same. It just depends on where you are, what kind of property you have, and when it was last assessed. That's what generates the most questions for me.
So Mike, just a clarification, on final pay 2023, your city revenue line is 353534240?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, with leaving the tax rate the same going into next year because of our added,
Value.
it's 525,000 has been added without upping anything, right?
No. Let's back up. Forget about an individual tax levy, where it goes. So if your levy is $100, it's still $100. The rate is what changed between this year and last year on that $100. Last year it was 20.88%. This year I'm projecting it to be 18.84 because the dollars that were levied stayed the same. The value it was levied over increased, so the ratio decreases. But the question I think you're asking is if you left the tax rate the same, how much more money would you generate? If you left the tax rate the same, you would just multiply that 20.88 times the 25 million, and you'd get like 5.25. And all the tax would be generated through increases in value, not increases in
On
levy.
this page, second page,
Yep,
you've got 500 additional taxes realized is $524,844.
yep, if you left the tax rate the same,
The way it is.
you'd generate that much more cash.
So my question to you is back on this one here then, wouldn't that 524 add to the final pay 2023? And then the estimated final pay 2024 be 4 million or 524?
Yes.
And it doesn't show that here.
I just calculated this using the same dollar amount of levy.
Okay, but I mean, that's where
Yep.
my confusion is, because that should be 4 million whatever.
Well, you had two questions. One direction was leave the levy the same, which I left it this way, and the second part of that question was how much more money could be raised at the same tax rate? And we have that answer.
Okay, and that's what the 524 is?
Yep.
That's what I'm calling
Yep.
leaving it the same.
Okay.
We're not using the tax rate, we're using the levy amount. We're using the dollar amount.
Well, that's what you need to decide.
Then you back into it, you find out what your rate is after that. But you want to go with the levy amount.
Okay. I'm just trying to, I'm trying to understand these numbers.
I think we have an option that we can do either one.
You can do either way.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can do either way. Both of them have impacts. Okay? Marcia? Unless you have a question, yeah. Okay. So, okay. Are you ready to do a preliminary?
Can we just start in the budget? I guess if you want to go back to Tom's questions and see what we think about them, or.
Well, I asked that and nobody had any comments, so.
Well, I would say that.
Surprise, surprise. Go ahead.
Okay. I'd like to discuss the fact that we rotate police cars every 6 years, or every 5 years. I'd like to see us rotating every 6 years. We got 6 squads and budget for 1 squad a year. And we won't have this. Whoops, I wasn't on microphone. And so we have over 200,000 in police assigned balance.
That's correct.
And I'm thinking that we could probably get control of this whole thing, but because
Well, we
we're
have
always
control of it.
budgeting for things that we're not buying.
Well, remember, we didn't levy for things. We already, back at the end of last year when we did this, Chief Lee and I gave you a detailed schedule of where every one of those dollars is
So
going.
why are we at 200,000?
Because we haven't purchased a squad car yet, and we got 20, and I answered that question in here. There's $26,830 we received in insurance proceeds, $4,000 of which we need to pay for storage, towing, other costs associated with figuring out what to do with the car. So we'll net about $21,000 to pay for, to replace a car that was crashed.
So what's the squad cost? You ordered the squad, didn't you?
No,
You haven't
given
ordered the
permission.
squad.
Nope.
Well, it'll be next year before you get it.
No, we'll be able to order, our next order we'll put in November. We don't even have our one from this year yet, so we haven't spent that money yet either, and that's what's, I believe you're
So
seeing
when
in
is
that
that
fund
squad
balance.
coming?
Should be October. We should have had it in March,
Maybe.
maybe October. But most likely, like, I don't know, fingers crossed, I guess, but all
That's
that
really not
money.
under our control. We order them and then we kind of cross our fingers when they show
Yeah,
up,
but
they're
we just
allocated.
keep on budgeting. But I would like to make a motion that we go on a 5-year or a 6-year rotation for the police squads.
Now, remember, this same council did that and said to stay with 5, so
I just made a motion.
I know you did.
Okay.
I would second that. And just get 1 car a year.
1 car a year?
Yeah.
And what are we doing now?
We're getting 2 cars
Every 5th year.
How
We
many
have them on a-
miles are we going to have on
Well,
these
on,
6 cars?
yeah,
No.
yeah.
That's a safety
It's going to
issue.
help us in budget.
Go ahead, Dave.
On average, we put on about 25,000 miles a year on the patrol cars. So,
And how many
and when,
hours?
and when a patrol car gets to be about 110, 120,000 miles, that's a tough life on a patrol car, and you start to notice it. Our oldest car right now is a 2017, I believe is
2017.
our Squad 304, and it should have been replaced in March, but since we have no control over when we get the car, we're looking at sticking a bunch of money into, it needs a timing chain and all sorts of work. That's a hard life on a car.
Do we have 2 squads that aren't being used now since we're down?
No. We've been running with 3 squads for the last 3 weeks.
2 deer
We-
squad car accidents.
We got one's been in the body shop for 2 weeks, and the other one's been at Kimber Creek Ford for 5 or 6 weeks now.
Yeah, but what are the chances we're going to hit deers like that? I hope.
Very high.
Well, when you put on, a couple 100,000 miles a year with 6 cars, there's a very good chance that we're
You
gonna,
just wanted to go to 6?
Keep in mind, for every mile you put on a squad car, the rotor sits and idles for an extra mile.
Right.
And so you've got 200,000 on that motor, so you're
Easy.
going to have more and more
Easy.
So I
problems.
was meeting 2 every 5 years, and Marcia, you want to go to 1 every, one every 6
Just one
years?
every year.
No, one, every year.
One every year.
Yeah. I'm not taking anything away. I'm not taking anything away.
no, yeah, it's just, I look at that extra year then, that we're really looking at,
Extra years adding miles? Or adding?
it could get iffy. It's just every 6th year we have to buy 2.
No.
Or every
Fifth.
5th year we'd have to buy 2.
And,
It's 1 a year, and then every
or
5th
you
year
could
we've got
buy
to-
a squad car every year and just be done with it.
Yeah,
Right,
just to refresh, so to help you with your thinking, you know,
yeah.
capital, we generally don't, part of the question was, as of today, the city has the following staff positions: police chief, police sergeant, which is currently vacant, administrative assistants, and 4 patrol officers. And we're down a car right now, because it's not back in service, right? We totaled 1.
Correct.
So now you got 5, and 1,
Well, we're technically down 2 cars right now.
yeah, 2 cars, but you don't have a body to put in that 1.
Correct.
Yeah. So the point is, if you're planning to fill the sergeant position, correct?
Yeah.
And you're still gonna have a department of 6, correct? So now's the time to get a car, and we're 2 cars down right now.
Have we advertised for a patrol officer?
3 months ago.
Yeah, there we go. We probably won't need a car.
That's pretty short thinking, Marcia, come on.
I sure hope we have you, or that we need that car, because
We need your help in attracting candidates. But anyways, so,
Well, we have a motion and a
Yeah.
second on the floor,
yep,
so we need to only stick with this.
yep.
Okay, so let's, well, all in favor, and the motion was to have 1 car a year instead of 2
Can we have a
every
little more
5th.
discussion? I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I understand. So, but if we do that, implement that now, are we going to be 1 behind that's adequate every year? I mean, do we need to get it
Yes.
up
Well,
first?
because we're waiting for this one.
Right.
Which who knows when we'll get it, so.
Right, so do we need to? It's not going to be like that every year. Maybe it will be. I mean,
I just
we
don't
have
see
to-
what the issue is now. What's the issue with budgeting?
But we're levying, and we're levying more and additional funds for that next
no,
No, we're not.
We're
We're making sure the funds are available in that 5th year when we have to buy 2. So it should be going up incrementally.
Right. And keep growing that nest egg.
Kind of like we want to do with the road fund.
Keep growing that nest egg.
That's not all made for squads, Marcia. So the question was, how many squads for 207,000? That'd be 3.5.
Dave, you call for a vote.
Yeah, let's vote. So all in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion fails.
Should we talk about your tasers while we're talking about police? So
What page are we on, please?
we're not on any page. There's 250,000, or $11,250 in the capital page for police equipment, way back in the detail, for tasers. The current status of Jake's tasers are 8 years old. They have a recommended shelf life of 5 years. So we're already 3 years over. We'll be going on 4 years over, going into next year. He's got a proposal in there to replace the tasers for $11,250.
19,000.
We got an updated estimate a couple days ago.
Per
That's,
taser?
No.
They're high voltage.
we're just trying to use up that 207, right, Marcia?
They're not quite that expensive.
No. This is just under $20,000, so 9,000 of that will
Have you ordered them?
No.
Nope.
I think we should use that 107,000 we're getting in December and order them now.
We need to talk about fire equipment needs too.
Well, I'm just saying, we got the tasers sitting there and 8 years.
We don't have the 107,000 right now either.
They don't recondition it.
I'm just saying, by the end of the year, we will.
Yeah. That's tasers, holsters, that's everything to get us started. They're at a new generation of tasers now,
That's
so,
in your 2024 budget.
yes.
So what did we budgeted?
But that's, and then I'll get us onto the program on the computer that we can download the information on, should we need to use that for court or any legal reasons, and it's kind of the whole boat. So,
Well, I mean, if they're truly
we,
3 years overdue,
yeah,
we have to do it.
it's kind of one of those things, like, we've been lucky that we haven't had any issues, but you know, what happens when all of a sudden you go to use it and nothing happens? Because they aren't electronic, it's not like a firearm. You know, it's
Now, I'm gonna ask you a question here, and I shouldn't, but I am. Have you ever used one?
yes,
You have?
yeah.
Are you gonna be a model for us on how it works?
It might be.
We'll film it and put it on YouTube, right?
They're an effective tool. It's probably the worst pain I've ever felt in my life, and I don't ever want to experience it again.
Well, remember that if you ever point that thing.
They're very effective.
Marcia, did you have any more questions on Tom's or Aaron's comments?
The other thing was, I found out last week that we don't have anything on the joint maintenance facility. What other one did,
What do you mean by that?
Well, we do.
What do you mean by that?
well, I mean, he didn't, when I asked at the last council
meaning-
meeting, he didn't say anything on the joint maintenance facility, the agreement
Oh, the
and the
agreement.
costs.
Oh, that's still with the county.
Yeah.
So, and Dave, you were at that meeting back in April. We talked about what will the city's expectation be for sharing that? It's about $90,000 in round numbers. And that represents a decrease, overall decrease from the prior year of about $66,000. Because remember, we're paying a big chunk of debt. And so what we did is we tried to shift that payment at a lower amount towards a longer range capital and enhanced maintenance plan for that building. You know, Pat, you'd worked on that with the jury and Rob Hall on that. So the county is requesting that we include in our cost, our share of the cost for that project, about $90,000, which represents 47% of the overall cost, maintenance and capital items, you know, whether it's, you know, fixing holes in the roof or fixing drains or repairing doors.
Is that utilities too? Is
No.
that broken out there?
No.
Utilities are also.
No. And we charge them back their share of utilities.
Yes.
That's about, depending on how cold it is and what breaks, it's utilities and our maintenance costs we bill back, it's about $35,000 we net out to on it. So we spend it and then we bill them back and we wash out the revenue.
Okay, then I have another question about the plow, wing, and controls on that truck. Is he talking about the truck we ordered this year?
Yeah, the truck we already paid
for 90,000
for.
that went to 120,000 or whatever it was.
No, we're talking about the 5500 chassis.
Yeah.
We've got the chassis. That's at Christeel, I believe.
It's at Christeel.
Getting
The
the-
truck itself came in at the same price they bid it from Chevrolet.
Okay, the truck, but the
Christeel's prices went up.
plow, the wing,
The-
whatever.
The sander, the dump box, all that went up in price.
So there's about, so you had a question in there, well, there's like all this money left in there we haven't spent. What should we do with it? But remember,
No,
we've got about $62,000,
All the vehicles.
$63,000 left to pay for that truck once it's put in service, so that'll go away quick. Then you've got a couple other things you're working on too.
Yep. The snow pusher we're
Yep.
putting on next year's budget to use downtown because there's nowhere to put the snow.
And that goes on the front end loader.
That goes on the front end loader, it'd be a 16-foot wide pusher.
Is that just a bucket, a snow bucket, or what's
It's
a snow
bigger than a
bucket?
snow bucket. It's 16-foot wide and probably 4 or 5 foot tall,
Doesn't have a
so
bottom in it though, it just pushes,
all it'll do is just push,
I
yeah.
see.
Yeah.
To go between the buildings and whatnot.
Well, what we'll do is wing everything from shoulder to shoulder to the middle and then just push it all out into one of the open areas. Because we can no longer blow snow up in the park area. We'll kill all those flowers and that, and that wouldn't be a
So,
good thing.
no, it wouldn't be. Is that 16,000?
That was 12 or 13, wasn't it, Mike? If I
Yeah,
remember right?
your
Boy,
latest
she's
was,
got a, you know what, eating grin on her face.
No, I don't. No, I just said, don't kill the flowers.
No,
no,
Oh, I guess that's,
I'm wondering have you heard any more on grant funding or donations to help, defray the cost of the radios?
you just got like 10,000 from Sourcewell, didn't you?
I applied for $10,000 from Sourcewell to help pay for the big truck, extras, radio equipment, stuff like
Okay.
that, but not for radios.
Well, I mean, you're gonna transfer some of the money from that's what you're responsible for.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just was curious.
We're not sure how much I don't know how much you put in there for radios out of the grant money.
Well, in the grant money from Sourcewell was only going to be for just that truck.
Okay, got it. So it's not for the overall radios,
I
it's
can only,
just to
yeah,
help.
I only
outfit
applied
that
for to replace or to put a new radio in the new truck.
Okay.
Okay.
Mike, what's the total debt that we owe, like, for projects and whatever, what is our total number?
Have to pull that out for audit report, I can get that for you. Yep.
Any idea, ballpark number?
Not in front of me.
Oh, no worries.
If I had our audit report in front of me, I could just direct you to that page.
I'm just kinda curious of what it is versus the 11 million we have in the bank.
Next question.
I don't have any more on Tom's.
Sure.
Thank you.
Going once,
But I do have
going twice.
questions.
Okay.
I don't know where you want to go now, but,
Well, let's go with your questions. I've already talked to Aaron, Sandy, Dave a little bit, and Jackson, so you're the only one I haven't talked to.
okay. I do have a question about interest income. We
Okay.
collected over $220,000
That's correct.
more than what we budgeted for.
We didn't know what rates were going to
Right.
be when we budgeted. Now, remember,
Right,
rates went
and I
from
think-
.005 up to, right now, most of our funds are invested at about 5.3. And as it's running, we went from about $3,000 or $4,000 a month in interest when our investments matured. And now we're realizing right around 30 to 35,000 a month. That'll change if rates go down. So your question is, why did we budget so low?
So, yeah, I think we need to up that for factual. I mean, we budgeted 18,000 last year, and we're collecting over 240,000. And I think the year before that, I think we budgeted something like that, and it was 100 and, I
So
don't,
let me ask you this. Do you think rates are going to go up or down next year or stay the same?
stay the same. There you go.
Okay? It's an election year, come on.
I think they might go.
I think they're going to go down, way down.
It doesn't really matter because we levied more than $200,000 than what we should have because we had that revenue. So if it goes down a little bit, I don't think it'll matter. We collected 200, so far,
That's correct. Yep.
220,000 more than what we budgeted
Is that a
for.
bad thing?
No, it's not a bad thing, but you know what?
Good thing.
The whole thing is that if we know that, we should be taking that into account and levying appropriately and not
and we're-
levying 200,000 more than what we need to.
Carrying it over to the next,
We're-
carrying it over to the next year.
We're carrying that over to the
But
next
you-
year to help pay for the city's share of that
Do you want to be
$750,000.
transparent?
We are being transparent, but it's not like we have a $19 billion surplus in Walsey.
But you're going to put 18, or I guess he's got 175,000 in there when you know you're going to collect more than that.
Well, I don't know that because if you spend this
Well,
money
I'm-
next year, you won't have it to invest.
What
Right.
did you collect last year? What did you budget? Like, they were just about,
Well, you know the answers, so share it with us, please.
oh, that's right.
Okay, let's move on then.
Well, are we going to change that? I would like to change it. The revenue, I'd like to change it to at least 200,000 or 225,000. I'll make a motion that we change it to,
I'd like to see your calculation.
what?
I think we should look at your calculation before we do that. And how if you're just pulling it out of the air, it doesn't make sense to me.
Well, okay. Right now, the actual is 193,756. We still have, that's half a year. That's a half a year.
Marcia, what page are we on?
Right. That's page 16.
Well, no, I've got the financial statement here.
Oh, that's not it? Don't we all have that?
I don't know, do you have it?
I don't know.
I brought it along
Why is
because I
everything so
thought I'd be questioned.
It's in
So
your
last
materials,
year,
too.
last year in 2022 is 115,677. I'll share that with you. And then, I don't know what the budget was for 2022, but I'm assuming that it was probably in that $18,000 mark. So you've got budgeted 175,000, and we've already received 193,756 as of June 30th. I think we're going to make it if we approve 225,275.
What is this for?
Right. What's
Interest
your
income is revenue. It'll reduce your levy. If you're budgeting for it, you need, your revenues, your tax levy and stuff, that's all,
Gonna go down?
well, that's how you collect your levy, is if you have, it's the
income.
revenue, your expenditures and stuff, that's all taken into
So
account.
you want to reduce it by 25,000? Because you're speculating at where it's going to be, right?
No,
We don't-
interest income. Right now, we've collected in interest income $220,000 more than what we put in our budget.
That reflected in our revenue.
Yes.
If that's accurate, I mean, what difference does it make? Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
And that's based on our current level of cash, not what we're planning to spend down. So just be aware of that. You'll have less cash next year.
That's not how you operate.
I mean, if you have,
We can still spend
we're
it.
still gonna spend it though,
Right.
are we not?
Yeah, but Marcia's just saying that the public should know that, you know, on a public statement, that the public should know that that's the actual amount that we have.
You're reducing your levy because you had income
Yeah, I'm
interest.
fine with that.
Plug it in there then.
Keep in mind, we got a long ways to go before we get.
No, I would like
So
to,
don't
I
be
would like to
reducing
plug it in
anything
there.
At this point.
Yeah, right.
But Mike should be making note of what we're
No,
talking
I made a
about.
motion already to do it, so.
Could you state your motion
Do
again,
your
please?
motion again.
I'll make a motion that we change our budget from 175,000 to 225,000 in interest income in the general government fund.
Okay, do we have a second? Nobody's going to second?
I guess I'm still not really that all understanding of what.
Well, I understand what she's saying, but I just don't know what difference it makes. I mean,
It,
Go ahead.
So what's happening is you have interest income. It's coming into the city,
Yeah.
yes.
more than what you budgeted. So now you have extra cash.
Right, just letting it sit.
If you don't use it, you just keep collecting it, it looks like you're hiding it from the
Right,
Right.
public.
right.
So you want to raise it so you look like you're more equal and
But
balanced.
now you just want to raise.
You will take, it'll lower your levy for next year.
yes,
With the amount of money that's coming in.
225,000 instead of 175. Right
You're
here.
$100,000, right? Well, probably be about $100,000?
I really don't know what's going to
We don't
happen.
know, because you don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'll second it, yeah, I'll second
You
it.
don't know what it's going to be.
Yeah.
So is there any other discussion on it?
Who seconded?
I did. All in favor
Aye.
I'm opposed.
One.
I'm opposed.
Oh, I don't think it,
You need to get toward the end of the budget before you start making these changes, because if you artificially start lowering stuff,
we're not, that was not an expenditure. That was not an expenditure.
She just wants to accurately reflect what our income is. I think that's fine.
I'm
Right,
for
Marcia? Yeah.
I don't care, I
Yep.
still object.
Now just be aware, when rates go down and we don't have that money to invest because we spent it on projects,
Well, we don't need to spend it.
well, we do. We need to spend $750,000.
Well, yeah, that, we
Yeah.
already do that.
That won't be, right now, that's invested. It won't be when we spend it, right?
Just because we've saved it doesn't mean we have to spend it. Does
No.
it? Okay.
But you,
I need a mic.
the argument
Yeah.
needs to end here, okay?
Yeah, okay. Next item, Marcia.
I have a question, it might be really obvious, but,
Okay.
you know, if you're looking at on page 15, the 2023 year-to-date actual, you know, the general property taxes was like 1,373,000, and adopted in 2023 was 3,535,000. I'm just curious about the difference in that figure there.
I think it's what was collected.
June 30th is part of it.
Okay, so let's say we
Oh,
levy
that's only
$100.
half the year? Oh, okay. Never mind.
I don't, Mike answered it, but.
So, the way it works is you pay your taxes on May 15th, right?
Right?
And the county, you pay your first half. Most people pay them half and half. A lot of people don't, some do. So if you levy $100, you're gonna get $50 in the first half of the year, $50 in the second half of the year. But that first payment, the county's only required to send you 70% of your first 50%, what they collected.
Okay, you were right, Dave, yeah, okay.
And so sometimes that's a bigger number, sometimes it's not.
Okay,
Okay? But then remember, that number will get bigger in July and August
people pay
total,
the second,
because the county has to send the rest of what they collected through the time they remit it to you, right after the 4th of July. So they don't shut the tap off, because on May 15th, people are still paying their taxes from May 15th to when they cut you the final check. So they may have collected $80 instead of 50, because a lot of people paid both pieces.
okay, thanks, yep.
Okay, I'm back to, okay, the police department. I'm on page 8 of the budget. If we're receiving over $100,000 for public safety this year, can't we purchase the protective vests and the tasers out of those dollars? And not put them in 2024?
Buy them now?
Yes, because we're getting 107,000 from the state come December. Public safety. The legislature
I guess I would
passed that.
Caution that kind of thinking, because we don't have the money yet, and they haven't released how do we have to account for it. My understanding is to pay for things that are in your budget coming up, because the argument is you've already budgeted for those expenditures in the current year, so use your current budget to pay for them. I don't know
I
if we
think
can.
that's how the COVID ones were, but I don't think they put any stipulations on that, on this 107.
Well, the point is
read
we
through
don't know.
What?
The point is we don't know. So
What? Well, okay,
if there are stipulations on it or not,
okay.
Budgeted for this year, 2023.
yes,
Well, I can't
Right.
touch the squad.
yeah.
I can't,
It's in his
what are you-
budget right
What are you
now.
guys saying? We can't hear you.
Well, he's saying if they're in the
It's in
budget
his
this year, why
budget
not
for
buy them now?
2023, why doesn't he just buy it?
Yeah,
That's just my opinion. Sorry.
Well, yeah, why wouldn't we buy them if it's already budgeted?
Tasers? Right?
That's a 24 budget item.
But she said like the vests and the.
Oh, okay, the back.
These
We
do
get
not
refund
have them in
back
the
from the state
2023
for vests and stuff.
Yes or no?
We pay for it up front, but then they send us.
What about the vest? No, yes?
Jake, if you get a new vest, can I have
Radios,
one
you already
of the
paid
old
for
ones?
them.
Can I have one of the old ones if you get a new one?
Oh,
I think I'm gonna probably gonna need one too, Jay.
nobody wants to touch that. You want to keep it in the budget?
Keep the 100,000 right now?
No, the tasers and the vests. The tasers and the,
They're outdated, they got
I know, I'm saying, just take them out of the 2024.
Do you all want to
and
talk
take out
about the
funds.
public safety money that's available? Because we both have to share it or have the opportunity to share it. And we
But-
can talk about it now, and if we decide on something that we want to take out of the 24 budget, we'll scratch it out of the 24 budget and use the $107,000.
Sure.
Okay, yeah, that's a
That
good
would be
idea.
much easier to talk about.
Okay, let's do
Okay.
that.
Okay,
Don't,
onward home.
So
Do you have something? I'm sorry. He asked me if I had questions, so I'm just going through it. Okay, I'm on page 9, the 25,000, or the 55,000 command unit.
I answered that in the questions in there from Tom.
Yeah, but the deal is that, how did we get 25,000 in there when we took it out of the budget last year? I'll take responsibility for, I might not have caught it and stuff because I wasn't at the October, November meetings. Well, I was at the November budget meeting. But how did we get 25,000 in there?
what's a command?
Because we
unit
took 50% out of what we thought we might need for a different vehicle. We put half of it in there. The motion at the time of the budget was to leave half of the $50,000 in there and reduce it to
But we
25.
took the
because
whole 50,000 out
No, we
in
took,
September. Yeah, it's in the, I probably have it here.
So a command unit's a vehicle, right?
yeah,
Yeah. You took it out, and then we halved the chief's salary. That's what we talked about, halving it. I have in the budget stuff that on September 19th or 29th, that we took the command out.
you mean the
Of the
chief's
budget.
chief's vehicle was out of the budget, I think, right?
It was the command. Says, well, let's see. I probably can find it. Oh, wait, I think I took that stuff out.
let's not talk about the September budget from last year because that's
Yeah.
not the one that was approved.
I'm just saying that, why do we have 55,000 in there when we put 25,000 in there last year? So you should only need 25,000 there.
I'm not going to answer questions on the preliminary budget September from last year, but I will on the final one.
Actually, the truck is 70,000 and it drops to 55 after the 25.
What are we buying, okay, explain the command center for $70,000.
Okay, so we're selling the Tahoe, we want to sell the Tahoe and get another crew cab truck. The Tahoe was donated to us, and our other utility truck, the Relief bought it, but it's 12 years
Okay.
old, and we want to get rid
So
of that.
do we have another new truck down there? No?
Not that,
Okay.
we have a utility we bought the new black one from a year and a half ago, but the Relief Association bought that.
That was the relief, that 54,000.
And the
or
Tahoe
whatever.
was not purchased by the city either.
That was donated.
$70,000 for
A truck?
a
Yeah.
truck?
Is that with lights and whatever you need on it?
Yeah,
Is he-
totally done, yeah.
We're expecting to get about somewhere 10 or 15.
Yeah, for the, yeah, so,
What kind of-
oh, is that where the 55 is?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, my
70
bad.
minus
No, the 55,000 it's gonna be about 60 to 70, but when we sell the Tahoe, we're gonna get proceeds from that, we'll bring it down to 55.
So we owe 55.
So what
We owe
kind of,
nothing on it.
what kind of truck are we getting for $70,000?
Well, Marcia, how much was your husband's truck?
Seems cheap. I think that sounds.
A truck is.
My husband's truck is 2017.
Okay, yeah, well, how much was it? I mean, that's how much, our truck that our one we got last year was 56,490.
56 just for the truck.
Just for the truck. How much are your trucks now?
If we go approve the new one, it's 56,000.
Right, so that's what a truck is, but then I have to put lights and sirens and the radio that I have some money for and all that normal stuff you put in there. They're not cheap, no. Trucks are ridiculous. A
Nothing's
new
cheap.
Tahoe is 100 grand.
Okay, let's go back,
So that's one thing you can use the 107 for.
let's go back to the 107. Where are you and Jake looking to go with that 107?
Well, we're listing them right now. I'm saying that my new truck could be part of it. Whatever you wanted to get. I mean, there's a couple different things. You can share some of this stuff. I also have to get my radios. My radios in my truck have to be there in the budget. I have to replace those radios.
What are your radios? His were 20, yours are 19 or something? How much are your radios?
I have 8 of them. I need 8. You needed how many? 6? Yeah, I needed
Yours
8.
is
And how
30?
much was yours? Do you remember, Mike?
It was 30.
30.
Yeah,
I
so
asked for a quote yesterday, but I haven't got it back. But my new encrypted mobile radio is 60 grand.
so remember, we're not doing things, we're just allocating where that $107,000 is going.
Right.
Right.
Do we want to use all of that, or do we want to keep some of it? Do we need to spend it all?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, well, might as well.
Chip, what'd you say your radios were, 60
And that's
grand?
primary a 2024
30 grand?
item, right?
All my stuff and all of it's 2024, right? Coming out of your budget, like whatever you're talking about.
Well, we're just allocating where how those budget dollars are being paid for, right? We have 100.
I only have 2 items that I can take out of
Okay.
2024.
So you're claiming it all, Chip?
No, I'm just
The
saying.
truck and the radios is
Well, it's
over what
either
we're
one or the
getting.
other. I have to get the radios.
Well, let's budget his radios if he has to get them, and then what do you need out of that? I think tasers, there you go, split.
How much are your tasers?
20.
Okay, so we can do with the other 40 grand.
We still have, right.
Yeah, let's, Chip,
Yep.
it says under total radios, are they including?
I have
It says
8.
60,000.
I have 8 radios. I have not, so that's an estimate off of what Eric bought last month of how many I'm getting.
And how many did
I
you
asked for a quote and I haven't received it yet. He's not getting any. He already purchased his, Eric,
Right, but
Eric
they were,
purchased
it
them.
was a total of 20,000 about?
No.
Oh, okay.
So we need more radios that you got,
No, the fire, yeah.
but you have it in the police department too. You have radios, $9,000
They both need them.
in the police department.
He doesn't need them, Mike.
No?
Boy, this is like circles.
New one for the SWAT.
Right. Yep.
I'm sorry, I thought we were talking about portables. That's all I had in my mind. My bad.
So just to recap, what we've done is we've allocated the $107,000. We really haven't, we just know where it's going now, right? Radios and truck and tasers.
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay,
yeah.
that's great.
So what is that total?
The tasers were 20, right? Total?
71. So what are you gonna do with the other $38,000?
It was just under 20.
Not 11, 20. So then you'd have 27,000. Put towards the replacing the Tahoe.
Yep.
Can I keep going?
And that's what we did. We just, again, remember, we haven't assigned those dollars. We've assigned most of them, but we really haven't accomplished a whole lot doing that. We've just talked about where they go, okay?
That 107 that you just talked about, yeah.
That seems like an
Understand.
accomplishment.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got the tasers and the radios.
Yeah.
Okay, next question.
Page 21, legal fees, labor. You're going to need to put 25,000 in there. Aren't we going to do labor contracts at the end of next year?
Yeah, and Char and I talked about that. The other thing we need to do too is we need to add some money in the budget. We need to increase the elections by about a third because we have 3 elections. I've only got 2 in there.
You have 5. You have 6,383 in there. And you only spent last time 4,367. Or wait, I'm sorry. You didn't have an election in 2022. I don't know what you got there, but in the proposed budget, it's 6,383. Is
Yep.
that enough for elections?
No, we need to up that by about a third because we have 1 election.
What did you spend last time? Do you know?
What are there 3 elections for?
We have the presidential one in March.
Oh, there's 3.
That's new.
Oh, is that the primary or whatever?
Yeah. And then we have the actual primary in August, and then
So this is for 1 election, the 6,000, so we have to put in like 18?
No, that's for 2.
That's for 2 elections?
Yeah.
But we have 3, so
That's why we need to up it a third. Yep, we need to up it,
So you want to put 9,000 in there?
right. We have to add,
What do you think about 2,000, 2,500?
yes. We still have to add into the model you have, it'll come to about $60,000 of additional expense if you've approved the job application, the job description, but the council has not approved posting the position that's split between you and TJ. Yeah. Yep.
So do I have to make a motion on that 25,000 for the labor attorney? Change it.
consensus.
Yeah. Yep.
Where is that, Marcia?
That's on page 21 at the bottom, last one.
Audit legal services.
Which, where?
Right here, we have 10,000 in there, and I know
Oh,
with
you want
labor,
that one.
yeah, to 25,000.
Make a motion.
Make a motion to change that to $25,000.
What are we changing? Are we
Changing
labor and
the,
legal fees?
2024 proposed?
Yeah,
What are you basing that figure on, Marcia? I'm just
we're going to
curious.
go into union contracts next year. And
Okay.
if you look at what we've spent on union contracts,
Okay.
this
Yeah,
makes sense.
Makes sense.
okay. Did you make a motion?
Yes, I did.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Then my last question is, we have history now. I'd like to see budget, on page 27, I'd like to see proposed budget for snow removal on trails.
That is to be calculated out.
I'd like to have a budget in there instead of leaving it open. Yeah, you can use the history from 2022 and figure it out from 2023 and put budget figures in there reflecting our history on the Public Works snow removal, the Public Works trails. And on page 30, Parks and Rec, snow removal and Parks and Rec trails.
Yeah, and I've already talked to TJ about that, and we're looking at 1% and 2% roughly is what he thinks.
But you have history there, so you should be able to put those budget figures in there. And I'll make that a motion.
To come back with them at the next thing what the budget is? You don't know.
For a baseline.
It's going to,
It doesn't
to
change
have budget
anything,
figures
it
in
just
there.
reallocates it within the existing budget.
Okay, so you can make a motion on that?
yes, I made a motion to,
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Is TJ going to want equipment to go with the snow removal stuff?
He's already using the
Yeah.
equipment he has for that.
he's been doing it.
They've been doing it, they just got a new Kubota.
Will he,
Did that finally arrive?
Yep, the only questionable equipment we have is the skid steer, right, Pat?
so
if you
will
need
PJ
that.
have a master plan also ready for us?
For the park? He does, yeah.
Because, I mean, there's nothing listed here, but,
No,
okay.
he's completed what he was assigned on that. For now, right?
Our next budget meeting, you'll have this all updated.
I'll sure try to.
And you'll use, let's see, when is our next budget meeting? Next week?
Wednesday
You
at 9.
use, can you use the 2023 year-to-date actual August?
We won't be done with August by then. I can put July in
Oh,
there.
July. Oh, well, okay.
Okay, Jackson, make your motion.
I'll make a motion.
Dang it.
Quick.
Not so fast. I'm just kidding.
I thought
I
you were
just
done
was-
till 2035.
I am. This is something different.
35?
Until 2035.
What are you
Yeah.
talking about?
I don't have any big equipment until then.
Oh, okay.
But have we thought about maybe putting money into a truck fund every year? So down the road, you're like, you don't,
A big truck fund, you mean?
yeah, like put
Doesn't just fall out of the sky?
put $100,000 in a year and let it roll until it, because I know in 2027 I have to buy SCBA's. That's 180 to 200 grand.
What are those?
Air packs.
Self-contained
They're
breathing
$6,000-$7,000 a piece. But I'm just saying, wouldn't that be a smart idea? Or I don't know. Mike does the finances.
Just to
but-
do
Pay
a,
forward?
Yes, it would.
We'll just put it in a fund. I mean, we've tried it in the past, but it kind of went away and went into the general fund when I thought it was there, when we bought our tender in 2013. I was supposed to have money, we've been saving it. It was in my fire fund every year for 25 grand. And then I went to get it and it wasn't there anymore.
Well, that was used to remodel.
Redo something.
Yeah.
I see.
But here's my other,
that's what the trouble is.
well, it got used for something else but it came out of my budget. So, or here's another one just to consider. Shouldn't we be putting money away for building maintenance? It is. So how much is it
I can find it.
I think I
There's
found it.
one in each fund.
for each building or?
I know I went through this last year, and it's in there. I can't remember
It's on
what the...
for you, Chip,
what
it's
is
on, it's on page 25, building repairs and maintenance.
How much is it?
5,000.
I would recommend 20.
5,000's not gonna do
What's the
much.
object?
Because-
What's the object code?
Where are we? 25 you said?
Page 25.
And it's under building maintenance or repair?
Building repair and maintenance, that's where we
That's
put
an
air
expense.
filters.
But that's an expense.
Right, that's where
That's
we-
not budget.
If your flashing is leaking or...
So that's not that's not like, looking for future
right,
problems.
Right.
Dave, we had talked about having.
Yeah, you guys talked about a maintenance
contract.
program, and we never did it.
A what program?
Maintenance,
Yeah,
With high tech.
putting money in there for
with somebody.
50 grand.
But you have 5,000 just for the fire department building.
Yeah, but that's a daily fix
That's
this,
for air filters
and
and
then fixing the drain is probably gonna be, I don't know if you got that bill, but it was today, but
not
that
yet,
was
or
like $1,500.
replacing light bulbs,
For
yeah.
toilet paper, filters,
Whatever.
whatever. I'm talking, okay, we never replaced the roof. In 10 years, I'm pretty sure we're gonna have to replace that roof, and that's gonna be about, by then it'll be $400,000. So I'm just making,
Well, doesn't insurance pay
thought.
for some of that?
no,
No.
no.
Why not?
Why would it? I should build a new house. I should have insurance. That's the same, you know.
And for the general government, they have 5,000
Yeah, it's
for
like
building
Well, they don't
maintenance?
replace my,
That's just like charts.
Sandy,
that
they're not
furnace
replacing my
filter,
house because
That's
they're not replacing my
supplies,
house
that's
because it's
not
20 years
maintenance.
old.
Yeah.
It's just
replaced
Well,
by
it is
wear and
supplies.
tear. You
That's
have
sweet.
to,
That's,
yeah.
you know,
Pray for a hailstorm.
Well, yeah. It was just my thought that you might want to,
No,
we
I-
talked about it when we built both of these buildings,
I think
But we
it's
didn't do
very-
it.
it's
but we
valid.
never did it. I know High Tech was going to put something together, but I didn't see it.
Why are they disappearing?
So,
I didn't either.
but we have a lot of money invested in both these buildings. We should make sure we take care of them. And that's,
Let's look at a building maintenance, facilities maintenance. And that would exclude.
Right, like this water leakage on the other side of the
would-
door here,
yeah,
still all yucky.
right. And everything's over, it's done with its warranty, so.
That would exclude the,
Get one at a time.
that would exclude Public Works, if I understand correctly, building?
Yes.
Okay.
If we were to establish a fund like that, how do we guarantee that it isn't used in other capacities?
We don't.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Yes, Zach,
I'll second
I
it.
got one thing yet.
No, I'm just,
Mike touched on it a little bit ago about that new employee that we talked about, but I need a vote from you guys so we can go ahead and advertise and get somebody hired.
Can't do it right now. You get in trouble.
It's a budget meeting, we
No,
can't.
can't do it.
All right, I don't know if we could get you guys to do that or not, but it's worth a try.
Next week.
Since I messed up.
we don't need any help getting in trouble.
Come on.
I know, I was kidding, really.
Dave, he just said he was kidding, so I.
Are you done, Chip? Is that it?
Wait. Are you done?
Aye.
All right.
Oh.
Motion by Dave, second by Marcia to adjourn. All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mike?
That's fine. I didn't know if we were done.
Well, we know that the roof is about 350,000.
That was last year. 2 years, 3 years ago. But I mean, if you do it gradually here, at least we have money sitting there saying, oh, we have our fund, building fund to help us.
I lied, we should have the building
Should have been, I asked to do it last year.
yes, and it went on deaf ears.